Palm Springs, California, June 1964. The desert city shimmers in the afternoon heat like a jewel dropped carelessly onto the floor of the Coachella Valley. Here, where Hollywood royalty retreats from the pressures of studio life, luxury achieves a kind of perfection that money alone cannot buy. The mountains rise stark and beautiful against the endless sky, their ancient faces bearing witness to human ambition played out in pools and gardens carved from wilderness. Kirk Douglas's estate sprawls across 5 acres of prime desert real estate, a testament to what talent and determination can accomplish in the American Dream Factory. The main house combines modernist architecture with southwestern influences, creating spaces that feel both intimate and grand. Glass walls dissolve the boundary between interior and exterior, allowing the landscape to flow seamlessly through living areas designed for entertaining and contemplation. The pool area represents the height of California sophistication, a kidney-shaped expanse of turquoise water surrounded by travertine stone and carefully positioned palm trees. Underwater lighting transforms the pool into a glowing sapphire as evening approaches, while hidden speakers provide a soundtrack of carefully selected jazz that complements rather than competes with conversation. But the crown jewel of the estate, the feature that sets it apart from every other Hollywood retreat in the desert, lies beyond the pool terrace. Douglas has constructed a private shooting range, complete with professional-grade backstops and target systems that would be the envy of any law enforcement facility. This is where serious men come to test themselves against standards that cannot be faked or bought. Kirk Douglas moves through his domain with the confident energy of a man accustomed to commanding any room he enters. 47 years old and radiating the kind of charismatic intensity that has made him one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. His distinctive jaw and penetrating eyes give him a predatory quality that translates perfectly to the screen, whether he's playing a gladiator or a gunfighter or any of the dozen other larger-than-life characters that have defined his career. If you want to see more stories about Hollywood legends who discovered the difference between talent and true mastery, subscribe to Glenn Ford Hidden Legacy. Tonight, Douglas has gathered a select group of friends and colleagues for what he calls a casual evening, though nothing about Kirk Douglas is ever truly casual. The guest list reads like a who's who of entertainment industry power brokers, men who understand that invitation to Douglas's Palm Springs retreat represents acceptance into an exclusive circle where real business gets conducted away from the watchful eyes of studio executives and gossip columnists. Glenn Ford sits quietly in a modernist chair positioned to catch the evening breeze, 48 years old and perfectly comfortable despite the lingering heat. Where other guests move restlessly through the party, sampling cocktails and engaging in the elaborate social dance that defines Hollywood gatherings, Ford seems content to observe and listen, contributing to conversations when invited, but never pushing himself forward. Ford's presence at the party carries particular significance because of his reputation within the industry. While Douglas has built his career on explosive energy and dramatic intensity, Ford represents something quieter, but no less formidable. Those in the know understand that beneath Ford's understated exterior lies a level of technical skill that borders on the supernatural, particularly when it comes to the handling of firearms. The conversation that changes the evening's trajectory begins innocently enough, as Hollywood conversations often do, with shop talk about current productions and industry gossip. But as the sun sinks lower toward the western mountains and the cocktails begin to take effect, the discussion turns toward more fundamental questions about talent and skill and the nature of professional excellence. "Glenn's got quite a reputation with a gun," someone mentions, and suddenly the attention of the entire group focuses on Ford with laser intensity. Douglas, never one to let an interesting moment pass without exploration, abandons his position by the bar and walks toward Ford with the purposeful stride of a man who has detected opportunity. His famous smile carries just enough challenge to make the gesture memorable. "Is that right, Glenn?" Douglas asks, settling into the chair across from Ford with theatrical precision. "People keep telling me you're the fastest draw in Hollywood. That's quite a claim in a town full of cowboys." Ford meets Douglas's gaze with steady regard, showing neither defensiveness nor pride in his response. "People say a lot of things, Kirk. Most of it's just Hollywood talk." "Maybe so," Douglas continues, his voice carrying the same intensity he brings to his screen performances. But I've heard specific numbers. 0.4 seconds from leather to target. That's not just talk, that's precision measurement. The other guests sense that something significant is developing and begin to gather closer, forming a loose circle around the two men. The party's casual atmosphere shifts subtly towards something more focused and expectant. In Hollywood, where reputation means everything, and legends are born from moments like these, even casual demonstrations can become career-defining events. "You know what I think, Glenn?" Douglas says, his voice dropping to the intimate register he uses for his most compelling screen moments. "I think numbers are just numbers until someone proves them real. And I'll be honest with you, friend. I don't believe anything I haven't seen with my own eyes." Ford nods slowly, understanding that Douglas has just issued a challenge that cannot be ignored without loss of face. In the complex social hierarchy of Hollywood, backing down from such a direct confrontation would undermine everything Ford has built over decades of careful reputation management. "You want a demonstration, Kirk?" Ford asks quietly. Douglas's famous grin widens, revealing the predatory charm that has served him so well throughout his career. "I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious. Been practicing myself lately, actually. Maybe we could compare techniques." The group moves en masse toward the shooting range, their conversation shifting from casual party banter to the more serious tone that accompanies genuine competition. The shooting range itself is a marvel of private engineering, offering multiple target distances and professional-grade safety equipment that rivals anything found at police training facilities. Douglas retrieves his personal sidearm from a locked cabinet, a Colt single-action army with custom grips and competition modifications that speak of serious investment in the craft. His handling of the weapon shows genuine familiarity, the confident movements of someone who has spent considerable time mastering the basics of fast-draw shooting. "Been working with a professional instructor," Douglas explains as he checks the weapon's action with practiced efficiency. "Fellow who trained some of the competition shooters back east. Really opened my eyes to what's possible with proper technique." Douglas assumes a classic quick-draw stance, feet positioned for maximum stability, right hand hovering inches above his gun grip. Everything about his posture speaks of recent training and serious attention to detail. This is not a casual hobbyist but a dedicated student of the craft. "Here's what I can do," Douglas announces, then demonstrates a draw that showcases both speed and style. The movement is impressive by any standard, smooth and controlled with no wasted motion. Douglas's Colt clears leather in approximately 0.8 of a second, coming up to a steady aim with mechanical precision. For most actors, such a demonstration would represent the pinnacle of achievement in fast-draw artistry. The gathered audience responds with appropriate appreciation, recognizing genuine skill when they see it. Douglas holsters his weapon with obvious satisfaction, clearly pleased with his performance and confident that he has set a standard worthy of respect. "Not bad for a guy who spends most of his time pretending to be a Roman gladiator," Douglas says with characteristic self-deprecating humor. "Your turn, Glenn." Ford stands slowly, his movement carrying none of the theatrical energy that Douglas brings to everything he does. Where Douglas announces his intentions with his entire body, Ford simply exists in a state of relaxed readiness that suggests vast reserves of controlled power held in careful check. Ford's weapon appears unremarkable compared to Douglas's custom piece, a standard Colt single-action army that shows the wear patterns of extensive use rather than the pristine condition of an expensive showpiece. But those familiar with serious firearms recognize the subtle modifications that mark it as a professional tool rather than a collector's item. "Impressive work, Kirk," Ford says, his voice carrying genuine respect for Douglas's demonstrated skill. "That instructor of yours knows his business." Ford walks to the firing line with unhurried steps, positioning himself where everyone can observe clearly what's about to happen. There's no ceremony in his preparation, no obvious ritual or routine that announces the significance of the moment. He simply stands there, appearing as relaxed and casual as if he were waiting for someone to take his photograph. "Ready, Kirk?" Ford asks without turning around. Douglas checks his own timepiece, finger poised over the stopwatch function as he prepares to document whatever speed Ford might achieve. "Ready when you are, Glenn." The silence that follows is profound and complete despite the presence of a dozen Hollywood professionals. Even the desert wind seems to pause in respectful anticipation, as if nature itself recognizes that something extraordinary is about to unfold. The only sound is the distant whisper of palm fronds moving in the evening breeze and the soft splash of pool water against travertine stone. Ford's breathing slows and deepens as he prepares for the demonstration that will either validate his reputation or expose its limitations. His eyes focus on the target downrange, a simple black bullseye printed on white paper that represents the difference between legend and reality. In that moment of intense concentration, Ford transforms from a middle-aged actor in casual clothes into something far more focused and dangerous. His hand moves. The motion happens so fast that Douglas's trained eye cannot track its beginning or follow its progression. Ford's hand doesn't appear to travel from his side to his weapon so much as simply materialize wrapped around the Colt's grip. The gun clears leather in a movement so economical and precise that it seems to occur outside normal space-time relationships, 0.4 seconds from stillness to lethal readiness, but the speed represents only part of what makes the demonstration extraordinary. What truly sets Ford apart is the absolute certainty of his movement, the complete absence of hesitation or adjustment that marks genuine mastery. There's no visible moment of aiming or target acquisition, because the gun arrives in perfect alignment, as if guided by some supernatural force. Ford fires once, the report echoing across the desert landscape like thunder in the clear air. Then, with the same fluid precision that characterized the draw, he returns the weapon to its holster and turns to face the assembled group. Douglas stares at his stopwatch, checks it twice, then looks up at Ford with an expression of genuine awe. 0.4 seconds exactly. But Glenn, that's not the remarkable part. Everyone follows Douglas's gaze toward the target downrange, where Ford's single bullet has punched a perfect hole through the exact center of the bullseye. Not close to center, not within the scoring rings, but geometrically perfect, dead center, with mathematical precision. Jesus Christ! Someone whispers, and the profanity sounds like a prayer in the desert stillness. Ford adjusts his casual shirt with the same attention to detail he brings to everything else in his life, smoothing fabric and checking positioning, as if he's just completed a routine task rather than a demonstration of skill that challenges the boundaries of human capability. "It's not just speed, Kirk," Ford says, his voice carrying the quiet authority of absolute certainty. "Speed without accuracy is just showing off. What matters is knowing that when you make your move, the result is inevitable. No doubt, no hesitation, no second chances. Just certainty." Douglas walks closer to Ford, studying his face as if trying to decode the secret of what he's just witnessed. In all his years of competitive achievement, in all his experience with professional excellence, Douglas has never encountered anything that approaches what Ford just demonstrated. "How do you achieve that level of certainty?" Douglas asks, his voice carrying a humility that few people have ever heard from the normally confident actor. Ford considers the question with the thoughtful attention he gives to all serious inquiries. 25 years of practice, Kirk. Same draw, same movement, repeated until the body knows what to do without consulting the mind. When you eliminate doubt through preparation, what remains is inevitability. Douglas extends his hand, and when Ford takes it, the handshake that follows carries the weight of genuine professional respect between craftsmen who have found common ground despite their different approaches to excellence. Douglas's grip is powerful, reflecting his dramatic intensity and competitive nature. Ford's grip is controlled, reflecting his technical precision and philosophical depth. "I thought I understood what mastery looked like," Douglas says slowly. "But what I just saw goes beyond anything in my experience. That wasn't just skill or talent or even dedication. That was something approaching perfection in physical form." Ford nods, accepting the compliment without false modesty, while maintaining the understated demeanor that characterizes all his interactions. "Different people find perfection in different places, Kirk. You find it in performance, in bringing characters to life that touch millions of people. That's important work too. As the evening continues and conversation gradually returns to more conventional topics, Douglas finds himself thinking about the nature of excellence and the various forms it can take. His own achievements, considerable though they are, suddenly seem more like preparation for true mastery rather than mastery itself. The demonstration becomes part of Palm Springs folklore, told and retold at industry gatherings and social events throughout the desert community. But those who witnessed it firsthand understand that they've seen something that transcends entertainment or competition, a glimpse into the kind of perfection that most people spend lifetimes seeking without ever achieving. Ford returns to his quiet corner of the party, resuming his role as observer and occasional participant in the social dance that defines Hollywood gatherings. But something has changed in how the other guests regard him, a recognition that beneath his understated exterior lies a level of capability that exists beyond their previous understanding of what human beings can accomplish. Douglas keeps the target from Ford's demonstration mounted in his study, the perfect bullet hole serving as a daily reminder of the difference between excellence and perfection, between achievement and mastery, between doing something well and doing something with absolute certainty. Visitors often ask about its significance, and Douglas always tells the same story about the night Glenn Ford redefined his understanding of what was possible. For more stories about Hollywood legends who achieved perfection through dedication rather than natural talent, subscribe to Glenn Ford Hidden Legacy.